Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session organized by the English Language Teachers Association of India. My name is Anita Kamli, and I'll be your host for the webinar today. Our topic today is language development, a holistic approach. Before we start, let's take a quick look at what ELTAI is all about. If you are new here or just need a refresher, please watch this short video that highlights some of our activities and initiatives. Now, that was an inspiring video. ELTAI is truly dedicated to supporting English language teachers across India. Here are a few guidelines to help things run smoothly in this webinar. Please post your questions in the chat box during the webinar, and we hope you'll stay with us throughout the session. Certificates will be sent within 10 working days. To help us process them quickly, please hold off on sending follow-up emails. At the end of the session, a feedback form will be shared. Please complete it to receive your certificate. Certificates are available for school, undergraduate and postgraduate students, ELTAI members, and international participants. We also welcome PhD scholars to join ELTAI. Check both your inbox and spam folder for the certificate email and keep a copy of the confirmation email after you submit the feedback form. We also invite non-members to join ELTAI for access to resources, professional development, and a supportive network. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's discussion. Mrs. Tusharika Limel holds an MA, MA, and DSM and has over 35 years of teaching experience from kindergarten to postgraduate levels. Retired as the principal of a D.Ed college, Mrs. Limay is passionate about linguistics and early childhood education. With more than 35 books to her name, including D.Ed English textbooks, Mrs. Limay now focuses on teacher training, course content development, translation, and content writing as a freelancer. Let's get started with our session. We hope you enjoy the webinar. Over to you, Mrs. Limay.
Yes, thank you very much, Anita madam. Welcome all of you today for a very interesting session. There is no linear progression of language skills, but the skills develop holistically. This is the principle on which today's topic is based. As we all know, for generations, language is considered to be a skill-based subject, and L, S, R, W are the four language skills which are believed to progress in the same order, that is, listening, followed by speaking, followed by reading, and then writing. However, according to the holistic approach, there is no linear progression of the skills one after the other. They progress together holistically. Let us understand this approach thoroughly from our guest speaker for today, that is Dr. Shivaji Deshmukh. Let me introduce you to the speaker. Dr. Shivaji Deshmukh is a second language teacher in a ZP high school in Sakhli Budruk, Buldana. He is the first Fulbright DAI scholar from local body schools in Maharashtra in 2020. Being a Fulbright scholar, he has spent a semester in the USA, including educational research at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. As a cultural ambassador, he has interacted with USA community in various conferences, workshops, and churches, and taught in the USA school for 6 months. Along with some educational research papers, he has authored a book titled Accelerated Learning in COVID-19 Pandemic and Global Competencies Fulbright Podcast, which is a book for English language enhancement with holistic approach. Some of his areas of expertise include global educational opportunities in education, activity-based English language learning, creative writing, how to improve vocabulary, linguistics, social and scientific contribution of sayings, and for teachers, CPD, academic leadership, teamwork, activity-based teaching, and learning process. I now request the guest speaker to continue with his speech for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Limai, for introducing me. It's quite burdening after such kinds of introduction to interact with the audience. But It's English Language Teachers Association platform, a big platform, a big crowd. I welcome all educators across the India and some of my special friends from abroad also. So I'm Shivaji from Buldana. I work as a high school English language teacher, and today I'm going to deal with the topic that uh, language development, a holistic approach. So let me share my screen. So yes, it's we are here. English Language Teachers Association webinar 131. So language development, a holistic approach. So today, on this occasion, I would like to avail the opportunity. Just 2 days before, we have celebrated International Mother Language Day on February 21. And after 3 or 4 days of this webinar, we are going to celebrate our mother tongue language day, that is Marathi Language Day on February 27. So when I talk about language development, then it's my responsibility to make it clear that I respect all the languages. Mm, Ms. Limai, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it. I can see
Okay,
it.
that's great. So whenever there is a discussion, there is a talk about language development, I respect all the languages, and no doubt we are going to see about language development and what is the contribution of various kinds of language heroes in in language development. When we are going to focus on it, today is the birth anniversary of Saint Gadge Maharaj from Maharashtra. He had the good mastery over diction, words, and language. And at the same time, I also respect to Maharashtrian Saint Tukaram, who has the great contribution in language development. Sant Tukaram says, words are the only jewels I possess. Words are the only clothes I wear. Words are only the food that sustain my life. Words are the only wealth I distribute among people. And when I respect such kinds of dignitaries who spend their life, Saint Tukaram, no doubt, he was one of the pioneers of Saint movement. But more than it, I can see that Sant Tukaram was the great linguist at the same time. And unfortunately, this area of language expertise of saints has not been focused yet so far in India and also in abroad. But just yesterday, in the capital of India, Delhi, Marathi literary gathering is going on. At that time, Dr. Tara Bhawalkar, she appeals that language plays the role of linking people. In the presence of Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji and convener of the program, Sharat Chandraji Pawar. So when she states that language plays the role of linking people, I think that I would like to state at the very beginning that there should not be any kinds of quarrel on the basis of language. So let's turn towards the language development. What do you mean by language development? No doubt, language development is a holistic process of understanding and expressing the feelings, emotions, and thoughts via spoken as well as written expressions, including gestures and body language. And what about the history of language? The history of origin and development of language is as long as mankind. So imagine the primitive people, they were also using their language, no doubt. Was it developed or undeveloped? We can't predict it properly. Today, also, certain kinds of scripts are available, inscribed on the stones, yet we could not decode it. So I salute all the which languages are sustained, which languages are emerged and developed in the course of time. So I respect all these languages and state that the history of origin and development of language is no doubt as long as mankind's history is there. What is language? We all know it. Language is a means of communication, and when there is a language, when the language is the means of communication, there should not be any kinds of ambiguity about the language. Language is the joyful process of expressing thoughts, and it should be joyful process of acquiring any kinds of language, and whether it is going or not, and in the traditional way, whether we are killing the joy of learners while acquiring particularly second language. That part is also we are going to discuss in this webinar. And at that time, how does holistic approach play the vital role in language development, joyful role? That part also we will see it. And specifically, I would like to divide my webinar into three parts. The first part is what is language, how it has been developed, and what are the thoughts of various kinds of linguists on language development and language acquisition. And second part is that how the holistic approach play the vital role in language development, and what are the misconceptions while developing the language at primary level, secondary level, and even about the adults learner. So mm, trying to complete the webinar in 40-45 minutes is a quite tough task, but with the support of all educators, I would like to focus on it. So when the question comes that what is language, Edward Safi says that language is a non-instinctive method of communication that uses symbols that are voluntarily produced. Ferdinand de Saussure says that language is a formal system of science that are governed by grammatical rules. Yes, obviously they are governed by grammatical rules. Again, there is a topic of discussion about this grammatical rules also. So there are various kinds of stages in language development. We all know it. First is the pre-linguistic stage, from the birth of child to up to 4, 5, 6 months. That child get acquainted with various kinds of sounds, respond to the sounds. That is called pre-linguistic stage. At the babbling stage, after 4, 5 months to 1 year, child starts saying such kinds of words, ba, ba, pa, like that. And after 9, 10 months, around 1 year, child gets able to pronounce a single word, mummy, papa, like that. And then after 1 year, child starts to speak 2 or 3 words, water, give, like that. There might not be grammatically correctness, but 2 or 3 words a child utter. Telegraphic stage, here child's emotions started with the utterances and words, that is more complex sentences child utters. Multi-word stage comes after the age of 2 years, and that child gets able using various kinds of prepositions also in his or her informal speech. And after that, any child starts after 2 3 years sharing such kinds of jokes or any other things. And then after 10 to 12 years, a matured stage comes, and where a child becomes independent user, creator, and developer. When do I use these three terms, user, creator, and developer? These three terms play the vital role in language development, and in the course of time, we are going to see how a person can be a creator, developer. So, Jean Piaget also expressed these stages in divided into four: sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage 7 to 11 years, and formal operational stage after 12 years, where a child becomes independent language learner, and at that time he starts user of language, creator of language, and developer of language. So no doubt, when there is a topic of language development, Noam Chomsky's name comes there. Without saluting these language heroes, within next 5 to 6 minutes, I would like to, I am not going to tell the audience what Chomsky says. Everyone knows it. But before that, I express the stages, 8 stages of language development. Being a educator, being a teacher, we must be aware about how does child learn language, and when we will keep our eyes open and senses open to see how does a child learn language, at that time and only at that time we will be able to make a child. I am not saying that we will be able to teach the child. I am saying that we will be able to make the child to learn the language very joyfully. So Noam Chomsky says that language is innate, and he has developed a large, that is language acquisition device, which was his very well-known research. It's 1960s, where he says that a purported instinctive mental capacity which enables an infant to acquire and produce language. So Noam Chomsky says that a child born with the ability or capacity for language. Then question comes for what about the inborn deaf people, dumb people? So no doubt they are also having their own language. It might be with gestures, some sounds, what animals or creatures create, but they use their language and try to convey the message. And the capacity of conveying messages and understanding, that might be different part. But when does Noam Chomsky says that a child is born with a capacity for language, I keep this statement on hold for some times and would like to focus on B.F. Skinner's, who has expressed the behaviorism theory. Skinner suggests that a child imitates the language of his her parents or caretakers during successful utterances are reinforced, while unsuccessful ones are forgotten, or sometimes unsuccessful are punished by caretakers, by parents, by teachers. So, in the atmosphere, in the behavior, child learns the language. Jean Piaget's cognitive development, he argues that a child has to understand a concept before she or he can acquire the particular language from which expresses that concept. Means we are coming towards, we are going to relate this Jean Piaget statement with holistic approach. That he says that or argues that a child has to understand a concept before she or he can acquire the particular language from which expresses that concept. We'll focus on it. And children use both assimilation and accommodation to learn language. Assimilation, they try to understand it, grasp it, and at the same time accommodation, they try to adjust with that language and express the ideas with that language. Lev Vygotsky, Russian linguist, his socio-cultural theory of cognitive development is also very famous. He says that children internalize and learn from the beliefs and attitudes that they are witness around. Culture plays an important role in shaping cognitive development, and therefore that these development varied across cultures. Without understanding the culture, we cannot understand the language properly. Suppose that the native people, they are living in a snow area, they might know a dozen of words for the snow, We know that snow, we know ice, we know frozen water, but they are using the various kinds of terms for the, suppose that snow on the leaves, that is called different terminology. Snow on the window shelters, that is called the different terminologies. So that without understanding the culture, to use that language properly, understand that language properly is quite difficult. Suppose that in Marathi it is said that, or Hindi it is said that, पानीपत के युद्ध में 9 लाख चुड़िया टूट गई. Chudia means bangles. Indian women wear the bangles, and suppose that in that war, 9 lakh bangles were broken, means that 9 lakh women were widow, due to the 9 lakh people might be killed in that war. And suppose that we do the translation word to word, that is also the threat of ChatGPT and all translation tools also. The translation tools or any other thing or any second language user can use say that 9 lakh Bengals were broken in Panipat war. And if any of my friends sitting in Morocco or sitting in Europe or America reads that sentence, he knows that in Indian culture, women wear the bangles, and that Panipat might be the war among women, and in that war, 9 lakh bangles were broken. So this is the lacking of not understanding the cultures. So that culture plays the vital role in language development. And moreover, Vygotsky also states the importance of language as the root of all learning. So the next one is Brunner. He has developed the LAS language acquisition support system. Children do have an innate ability to learn and acquire language. First part of his statement, he agrees with Noam Chomsky, but adds something that Brunner says that language also require interaction of language acquisition also requires the interaction of other users of the same language to excel in their learning. So he goes one step ahead. And then some Indian linguists also contributed. We do not have the time to talk about the detailed views of Kabir, Sant Dhaneshwar, Mirabai, Janabai, and all these saints. But I would like to respect, I would like to salute Panini, comprehensive language development very long years ago. He has expressed the theory of phonetics, phonology, and morphology in language development of Sanskrit in his Ashtadhyayi or Sutrapat. So that I salute Panini's work also. And now we are going to turn towards how does a child learn language. But before that, let's come to Noam Chomsky's statement that language is the inborn capacity, or a child is born with the capacity for language learning. So there are various kinds of objections on this theory, that people say that it's not the inborn capacity, some say it is. I am not going to justify this statement, or I'm not going to make any kinds of contradiction in this webinar, but simply I want to put one situation for the brainstorming of all educators. In Maharashtra, there was a Saint Naneshwar. He has translated Bhagavad Gita from Sanskrit to the Prakrit, means Marathi or dialect language of those kinds of people, at the age of 13. So apart from all such kinds of superstitions and everything, I get astonished each and every time that at the age of 13, if Saint Naneshwar is having the ability, is having the capacity to translate Bhagavad Gita Sanskrit to the dialect language, that is Prakrit, so is it inborn capacity, or was Naneshwar born to learn the languages? So I don't know, but in the language development, we should think about it. And Jean Piaget's statement later, that who says that needs the atmosphere, that's also true. And what happened? It is the time or situation. At that same time, in England also, Bible was translated from Latin to English language. So such kinds of things are happening across the world simultaneously. So we are not going to look towards comparatively, but when the word comes language development, educators must think over it also and should make the language learning more and more joyful. So, after taking the overviews of all these Jean Piaget's, Leo Vygotsky, Brunner, Panini, let's come towards how does a child learn language. So, there are two types of languages. One is mother language, and another one is second language. So, mother language is learned in the atmosphere. Moreover, I would like to say that atmosphere teaches the child language. And what about second language? Second language is learned through efforts, support, and reinforcement. Sometimes we give the some kinds of input to the child, and sometimes we provide the structure for the child, and sometimes we provide the ready-made scenario to the child. We ask the child to copy it, to by heart it, to write it again and again, and we think, we assume that child is learning language. But is it happening really or not? We'll see it. I say that moreover, second language is learned with the support of mother language also. So both the aspects, reinforcement, support of a teacher, support of the society, support of the parents, and at the same time with the support of the mother language, how that phenomena work and what are the drawbacks in that phenomena, and after that, mm, how can the holistic approach play the vital role in it. So that what happened, imagine that when the child enters in the school, and after entering in the school child starts learning the language, what happened at that time? So at that time, when the child goes in the school, the first, at very first stage, the stern teacher, over ambitious parents, and highly protected child enters in the school, and teacher asks the child to write down the alphabet. And when taking the 4-line notebook, with the support of teacher or with the fear, due to the fear of teacher, child starts writing A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and I say that D for demon. Why do I say that D for demon? So just come towards the next slide. Those educators, they are attending this webinar. I request you, I appeal you that simply this one of the letters is displayed here. So I request you to write this letter again and again in your notebook for 1 hour, 2 hours. What will happen? You can, if I ask you to write this letter, if I ask you to write this sign again and again into your notebook as it is, repeat it. You can also share your feelings in the chat box. It will really interesting. Then we will come for why D is demon. If at the age of 20, 25, 30, 50, 60, 70, 80s, those that are attending this webinar, if I ask you to write it again and again on a, in the notebook on a paper in 4 lines with full of disciplines and in a stipulated time, you all or we all will get wearied, we all will get annoyed, and we all will get irritated and exhausted also. Because without understanding the meaning of this sign, without understanding the purpose of writing this sign, without getting familiar with this sign, if we are repeating it again and again, it's really dangerous for any person, any language learning. And so that when does a child enters in the school, A for apple, no doubt, B for ball, C for cat, and D for demon for that child. And at the very initial stage in the formal schooling, we are inscribing such kinds of scratches on the mind and heart of the child in English language acquisition. So all educators must think over it. Policymakers also must think over it, how the alphabet should be taught, how a child should make familiar with alphabet, and how it should be more and more joyful at the beginning. Next part also I am going to talk about, but it is said that the development of fingers get at the age of 5 and 6, and at the age of 2 3 years old child, we are asking him or her, we are asking that baby to write alphabet again and again, and that's also without knowing the meaning. And so that A for apple but D for demon for that child, this is the lacuna in present system, and so that children are not learning the language. We are coming towards next stage also. Then what is the solution? Holistic approach says that instead of asking to write again and again alphabet and words, we should make child familiar with pictures and pictorial concepts. A into anchor, B for balloon, B for ball, C for cat, A for ant, apple, ambulance. When child will get familiar with such kinds of pictures, and then child comes to know A stands here in this way, then child will learn it with joy, with full of interest, and with full of curiosity, and that baby will start finding A in other places. Where does it come? At that time there is no need of a stern teacher in the pre-primary level, so that should be done. Next, we can extend it with respect to the holistic approach. This is an FL. We can put the pictures regarding to spellings and pronunciations that will get clarified, that will get more and more polished and more perfect in the course of time. Educators should not be bothered about it at initial stage. Then we can extend it to sentence building also with pictorial concepts and story cards. Between these other stages also linguistic competencies, WH types of questions, prepositions, verbs, other things, it's not possible to share everything in this single webinar. But in this way, holistically, we can make child familiar with such kinds of alphabet at the beginning instead of meaningless, purposeless writing and overwriting. So that holistic approach appeals educator, and this approach has been started from the pre-primary and primary level recently. So I am very much happy with the steps taken from the government, that they are applying holistic approach to avoid such kinds of D for demon at the school level, and it is at the college level also. Now it is the responsibility of we educators that we should understand it, we should propagate it, we should apply it, we should appeal to the community to apply this holistic approach. Another thing is that child learns English language acquisition with the help of mother language. And why do I am saying English language in the development of, it's the English Language Teachers Association, and no doubt English is a franca lingua. It is the linked language. And what happened, that teachers should be aware, they should think about this example also. When does a child tries to learn the second language with the help of first language, the sentence is there, Raj Gana ga raha hai. What does a general child what does a general child do in the classroom? It's my own observations in my classroom also, that child try to learn the English language with the support of first language. Child takes Raj at first, then he says that song, Raj song is singing. And we educators, we parents get annoyed. Why does he or she is using such kinds of sentences? But we do not try to understand the impact of first language while learning the second language. मैं किताब पढ़ता हूँ. The child will say that I. Next, the child will take book, and then we'll go for read. Instead of saying I read a book, instead of saying that Raj is singing a song, Raj song is singing. So these are the impacts of mother language, mother tongue, while learning or acquiring the second language. We should also understand such kinds of impacts. And new education policy says that mother tongue should be encouraged in English language classroom. Obviously, I do agree with the statement that mother tongue should be encouraged in English language classroom, but how much it should be encouraged? I say that it should be encouraged only till that mother language should not overlap the English language atmosphere, or should not spoil the English language atmosphere. Till that, educators should be allowed to use the mother language. Children should be allowed to use the mother language, but at the same time, educators should be aware about the impact of mother language, what happened here, instead of getting annoyed. And now we are coming towards concrete expectations of holistic approach. So when we come towards English language development, so there are two types of skills: basic skills of language development and soft skill. In basic skills, LSRW, and soft skills, communication. So when do we say that basic skills and soft skills? Basic skills related towards knowledge, and soft skills are meant for the application level. And again, in these basic skills, listening and reading are receptive skills, and speaking and writing are productive skills. No doubt, it is there. And we have been told continuously that LSRW are linear or gradual process of English language learning. But again, the question always was buzzing into my mind, that is it truly like that? Educators should also think over it. Is it mathematics that if I give the receptive skills, listening and reading, 1 kg, and I will get the productive skill, that speaking and writing, 1 kg from the child, and then communication can be the bonus in this process? So always, the question was buzzing into my mind, but it does not happen that. When the child starts listening, at the same time, child starts relating whatsoever he or she has listened. And that we call it constructivism. Before this holistic approach, constructivism no doubt played a vital role in the joyful teaching learning process. And this constructive approach is based on Jean Piaget's research on cognitive theory and John Dewey's principle of learning by doing. So constructivism can be the separate topic for webinar, but 3 core points, what do I find, which I do like, that constructivism says that no single child is a blank slate. Concept connect previous knowledge to present. Child is not coming in the classroom as a blank slate. A baby connects previous knowledge to the present, whatsoever he or she is learning in the classroom. We should not underestimate, and we should not consider the children in the classroom. And child always likes to create something new. We adults are there, we fear to accept the new things and to create the new things, but children are having lots of curiosity. They always create something new. And when child is not a blank slate, Child connects previous knowledge with the present and able to create something new. Then listening, reading, speaking, and writing cannot be separated skills. They go hand in hand, and then they produce the communication, make the child able for this. And when I talk about this, so language development, a holistic approach. Recently, Indian government has produced the authentic docket on it. How does a child learn? And when does government document speaks about how does a child learn? So it is the responsibility of educators. We should also try to understand the process. How does a child learn? Nipun Bharat, National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy, says that there is no linear progression of language skills, but the skills develop holistically. Children do not learn how to read first and then learn how to write. Language classroom experiences of teachers have shown that the process of reading, writing, listening, viewing, and thinking develop simultaneously as learners become literate. In schools, these research findings and rich experiences of children should be built upon in the learning process. Emergent literacy perspective advocates literacy learning by interacting with meaningful text for genius purposes, including enjoyment. Mm, So that this holistic approach, which has been not only applicable to the English language books, but holistic approach is applicable with mathematics and science books also. Recently, it denies the theory that LSRW are not the linear skills. They go hand in hand. And so that teacher should be able to understand the constructivism, learning by doing. Teacher should be able at the activities with the child's learning language. And when we talk about this, we go beyond. We can give the opportunity of reading with listening to the child also. Let me perform 1 minute document before you. If a child start reading these, make it varied. But if we add sound to this reading, then definitely child.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Matt Neal, and today I'm proud to present to you Dr. Shivaji Deshmukh. Shivaji is a friend of mine, and he is a Fulbright distinguished educator from India. Shivaji has been in my classroom for the past few months before this COVID-19 outbreak. We spent 2 months together, and I was his partner teacher. This conversation is really special to me. We got a chance to sit down and talk about how he believes we can instill values in students. We got to talk about the comparative aspect between India and the US and our school systems and what we can learn from each other. And we also got into how he believes we can come together as societies and people, and how we can be stronger from learning from one another. So I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation. It was so much fun, and I think you're going to love it. So here is Shivaji Deshmukh. So I am.
Thank you very much for keeping the patience to read it and listen it. So the purpose was adding the sound to the listening. The purpose was that now it is the reading with listening holistic approach. So holistic approach also focuses on use of AI, ML, and digital humanities in the classroom. Again, it can be the one it's separate topic for the webinar, but with respect to holistic approach, I must talk 1 or 2 minutes about this. Today, roti, kapda, makan, fundamental needs, and at the same time, I say now there are 4 fundamental needs: roti, kapda, makan, and AI, artificial intelligence. Yes, AI has been entered into grassroots level classrooms also. And machine learning is playing the vital role, and we educators should be able to use digital humanities for this reading with listening. In this age of technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and digital humanities, language is going to be more creative. It's not, and your students are more creative. Language is going to be more and more creative, so that we all language teachers are expected to be more updated in this age of AI, machine learning, and digital humanities. And I appeal, by the end of this webinar, I think that last 1 or 2 minutes are in my hand. I should not overtake my time limit, but simple, very humble, my appeal on the occasion of this webinar is that, mm, with open heart, with open mind, with open eyes, we teachers should try to understand how does a child learn language. Language learning is always a very joyful process, and when we will be able to understand it, and definitely when we apply holistic approach to language learning, no doubt at that time we will be very much happy in the classroom, we will be very much creative in the classroom, and at the same time our children will be very much lucky and very joyful while learning the language, and language will connect the people. They will not quarrel about the language. And the last part, which I used AI, ML, and digital humanities, even in colleges and universities, holistically we can use it in language classroom, and we'll stop the traditional learning. And that way we will make the child also, infant, child, babies, school going children, college, universities going students, more creative, more happy, more rich with the help of language. And again, I would like to when I appeal this, I would like to conclude my webinar with again Sant Tukaram's quotation. Then words are the only jewels I possess. Words are the only clothes I wear. Words are only the food that sustain my life. Words are the only wealth I distribute among people. So I wish all the best for all educators to go into the classroom with holistic approach to make the language learning more and more creative and joyful. With this appeal, with this request, I here I conclude my session, and I am very much thankful to ELTA to provide me this opportunity to talk with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deshmukh, for this very interesting session on the topic holistic language learning. For some of the individuals present in this seminar, it may be a completely new topic. For those who are familiar with it to some extent, it has been very enriching, including myself. First of all, Dr. Deshmukh, I appreciate your respect for all languages. And as linguists and educators, we all do the same. You started with the initial stages of mother tongue acquisition, right from the babbling stage to the independent user, creator, and developer stage. You refer to the importance of language learning theories, focusing on Jean Piaget's cognitive theory, which is associated with the holistic approach. You have taken into account the interference of mother tongue as well and explained with examples the extent to which it can be used. This is something which all of us should note. So we can use the mother tongue, but as Dr. Deshmukh suggested, it should not disturb the atmosphere of learning a second language. Something very unique, that is, you touched upon the role of saints in the development of language. Indeed, we understand that the holistic approach helps to make second language learning very joyful. It includes pictures, story cards, making language learning very meaningful. You suggested that constructivism is a method that can be used in the holistic approach, and it can be a topic for a separate webinar. I remember that very long time back, I had conducted an offline session on constructivism. It was also organized by ELTAI. And we also learned today that this holistic approach is introduced now at the pre-primary and the primary stage according to the new education policy. Now it is for us to apply it and carry out research. Now here I suggest that those who are interested in this new approach, here is a wonderful opportunity for all of you who are teachers, who teach at various levels, to try out experiments in your classrooms based on this holistic approach. Of course, we talk about integrating all the four language skills. We say, although we teach them for the sake of convenience separately, we consider them as listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We also talk about integration. But holistic learning of all the skills or acquisition of all the skills is something different from mere integration of the four skills. So this is what we have learned, sir, today, something very important from you. I think I agree with you that artificial intelligence, machine learning can complement the holistic approach to a great extent. So, so your webinar, sir, today has opened up so many avenues for educators. We can make use of artificial intelligence and try to apply the holistic approach in our classrooms. You can write research articles on the research that you conduct in the classrooms, and you can take this approach ahead. Now, there is some time for questions. So you can type your questions in the chat box. I cannot see any questions in the chat box.
Some Madhu Kumar, Shika Singh, and others are raising their hands. I request you to type and put it into chat box.
Yes, please type
We-
your questions in the chat box.
Some says that use of AI can cost the natural talent or can kill the natural talent. But according to me, it's not like that. When we started computer, at the same time, there were lots of objections that computer will kill the creativity of human being. But now we can see the most creativity in the field of computer science. In the same way, when there will be the artificial intelligence, I think that human being will be more and more creative, and there will be right now in developing and undeveloped countries, copy paste is the common practice among many of educators. I should not say that each and every, but I think that there will not be any kinds of scope for copy paste and other things. How much AI and machine learning will be effective and creative, it is the necessity of human being to be more and more creative than the AI and machine learning.
Yes, sir. I would like to add that we can use AI for the holistic approach, that is for combining all the four skills or presenting two skills at a time, like the example that you gave, reading and listening at the same time.
And that was also one of the questions in the chat box.
Yes.
And thanks for addressing that question also.
Any more questions? I can see that some of you have raised your hands. Madhu Kumar, Shikha Singh. Can you type
There
your
is a question,
questions?
how the holistic approaches differ from the others. So first of all, we need to understand the difference between approach and method. Approach takes us close to the objectives of the curriculum, and method tells us how to teach it. So holistic approach, it's regarding to language development. In what way we were thinking that at first we should provide the listening inputs to the children, we should provide them opportunity to read it, and then child will come with speaking and writing. But holistic approach says that a teacher should set such kinds of activities that child will learn it holistically, hand in hand. And again I appeal that instead of saying that today we are going to learn these, or today I am going to teach these, it is the skill, it is the ability of educator that we set the activities and child learn it holistically or automatically. So that is the holistic approach differs from the other approaches and traditional ways of the language learning.
Sir, someone has asked, can you suggest some AI tools that can be used?
Absolutely. That going to AI tools, there are two types of AI tools. One is for some are useful in teaching learning process, and some are used for assessments. So Duolingo app is also the part of AI. Read to Me app is there, uh, which is useful for TOEFL and IELTS also, preparation of SAT also. When we read on Read to Me app, at the same time the letters get blue or green, and what speed, what accuracy we are reading, we get automated feedback at the same time. And even Read to Me app, we are not able, that app will read for us, we will understand the pronunciations, flow and fluency of reading, and then automatically we will try ourselves. So these AI tools are open nowadays, plentiful in the free of cost to use in the classroom. So softwares are made, but it will power to use that software and apply that software without killing the ability, natural ability that it so far has to be developed.
Sir, I think we will take the last question because the time is over. And someone has asked how you can create an emotionally supportive environment in the classroom. So I think since this is connected with the holistic approach, this will be the last question for the session today.
Very initially, I state that A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and D for demon. So in our classroom, we should not draw any kinds of scratch. We should not kill the curiosity of children, because language learning is a joyful process, and we always play the role of many times, knowingly, unknowingly, or due to the burden of completing the curriculum syllabus, we play the role of dictatorship. So I think that we should make the teaching learning process more and more joyful. And I also gave the two examples, how does mother language or impact of mother tongue works while learning the other language or second language. An educator should be able to understand this impact, and if we understand such kinds of process, then we will support our children and we will make them to learn language happily.
I said that this would be the last question, but I think Dhaneshwar Mohapatra is very anxious to ask something. So we will allow him to ask his question.
Please, sir.
So you are muted.
Naneshwar Mohapatra, sir, do you want to ask something or any comment?
So we cannot hear you. You are muted. I think, sir, you should type your question in the chat box because the organizers have muted all the participants.
We will wait for his question if there is, but truly very brainstorming questions were from the audience. I could not attend any question. I am very sorry for that.
Okay, I think we should end with this. So I hand over to Anita, madam. Thank you very much, sir, for answering all the queries satisfactorily and conducting this very interesting session on holistic language learning.
Thank you, Mrs. Limay. Well, that was an interesting and engaging discussion today. On behalf of ELTAI, I sincerely thank our guest speaker, Dr. Shivaji Deshmukh, for sharing valuable insights and time with us. Thank you, sir, for keeping to the time allotted to you. That was really, really very impressive. I also appreciate Mrs. Tusharika Limay for her expert moderation, for summarizing our session so clearly, and for managing the questions and answers very effectively. A special thank you goes to the dedicated team behind the scenes, our seniors, mentors, and especially Kevin, whose hard work and commitment are the backbone of these webinars. Thank you, Kevin. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our participants from across India and abroad. Your active involvement and thoughtful questions enrich our discussions and create a vibrant platform for global collaboration. Please remember to fill out the feedback form. I'd like to remind you that certificates will be issued to school, undergraduate and postgraduate students, ELTAI members, and international participants. Before we wrap up, I have one more announcement. Please mark your calendars for our next ELTAI webinar on Sunday, March the 23rd. We'll be exploring use of alternative assessments in everyday classroom practices. To be presented by Afroza Akhtar Tina from Webster University, Tashkent, Bangladesh. Can we please have the poster for the next webinar? And yes, it's already there, displayed. The poster for the upcoming session is displayed on the slide. Registration details and further information are available in the chat box and on our website. Your continued active participation is essential to our shared journey of professional development. Now, let's turn on our videos for a group photograph. And with that, I would like to take your leave. Thank you once again. Jai Hind. And let's have the videos on so that the photograph can be taken.